Hello all, thanks for joining me today in this video. Today I am going to be using some scraps, which are literally always an issue. If you watched my last video where I make this patchwork dress, you saw that I used a lot of thrifted shirts and skirts to make this dress, and I had a lot left over because I just needed like big squares, so any like small scraps of fabric kind of got pushed to the side. Well, now I have a lot of scraps of fabric and I don't just want to throw them away. So I'm going to be making a hanging macrame holder for a plant. So if you look, you will see I have a lot of scraps. This is everything that's left over from my previous video where I make the patchwork dress, which if you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. It was a good time. But we're going to be using those today and making a hanging pot holder, I guess. The first thing that you need to do prior to getting started is you need a plant. This is mine. I'm using this polka dot plant. Ugh, isn't she so cute? I'm obsessed with polka dot plants. Like, she got some white leaves, she got red leaves, she got pink leaves. Like, she's adorable. I love her. Second thing you need to do, make sure it's not very heavy. I'm not going to be anchoring mine to like the ceiling. I don't have like a hook on the ceiling or anything. So I'm gonna do something a little risky and hang it from the curtain rod above my window here. So I put it in a plastic pot so that it's not super heavy and it's not like a huge plant. Like it's pretty light. I'm confident that my curtain rod's not gonna break off. So with that done, next let's look at the window. Here's my sewing desk. This is where I normally kind of place my favorite plants, if you can tell from how many plants are sitting back here. I don't have a lot of space left though. I like to leave space behind my sewing machine open so that I have room to like actually move garments around when I'm sewing. And they're kind of like all the way to the edge of the desk. So I decided let's make a hanging one. So if you look up there, super hard to see because of the lighting. I've got a curtain rod. I've got one already hanging off of it that someone got for me. But I'm going to be making a new one for this guy. I actually have made holders for hanging plants. They're not like great though. So if you want to look at, this is one that I made a number of years ago now, and it's just a number of strands of yarn like together, and this pot is too big for it, so it sits in it really oddly. But that's kind of just what I was planning on doing for this one, was using like doubled up, I think these are actually like 4 strands of yarn, and just kind of tying it up like that and it would be fine. But instead I found this really cool idea for using your scrap fabric to make kind of like a rope or a twine to use for different crafts. In this case, I'm going to be making a hanging pot holder. So I saw a few different methods. I've read a few articles, looked at some pictures. I'm gonna kind of be doing this for the first time, so we'll see how it goes. But most of them recommend getting a piece of fabric or cutting a piece of fabric that's like 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick, or wide, sorry. So not a super large piece of fabric because you don't want your rope to be like too bulky. And then getting 2 of those and kind of twisting them together, and then when you get to the end, you just like tie on another piece and keep going. I'm not going to follow that direction exactly. So I don't want big knots in my rope because it's not going to be a continuous rope. I just need like some short pieces to hold up my plant. So instead I'm going to sew some pieces together, and then instead of having contrasting colors, because I don't want to make more scraps, I'm going to be using 1 solid pink piece and then 1 patterned piece, all from my patchwork dress. So my initial idea was kind of similar to the one that I just showed you that I made earlier, where I was just like knotting together the different strands to make it kind of like a woven pattern. And then I was like, no, that's kind of boring. I'm going to do something a little bit more artsy. So I know my drawing looks like a bird's nest, but basically what I want to be doing is having the main strands hanging from the top and making sort of like a little halo shaped like ring, I guess, that the pot just sits down in, and then all the strands are unwoven below it, kind of just like hang freely, and maybe it looks a little bit more artsy. I don't know, that's what I'm going for. So I'm gonna start out by kind of measuring how long I actually want the plant or the pot holder to hang down from my curtain rod, so I know how long I need to make each of the strands. And since I have 5 total coming down from the top, I need to make 10 strands that length. I went through all my fabric, and for the most part I was really looking for those strips of fabric that are like useless if they're not literally attached to a shirt. So this is like the button side of the shirt, and this is the waistband off the skirt, and I chopped up a lot of like collars. This is a collar. So I was really just looking for like the teeniest tiniest pieces that you can't do anything else with, and I still have that left over. So if I need more, I think this is enough, but if I need more, still have a bunch of fabric. If I don't, awesome, and I can still make more things. So initially I was gonna make the rope that was hanging down first. I decided not to. I decided to go ahead and make the ring that was gonna go around the pot. So I started out just with the first ring. I got 3 strands of fabric that were a little bit bulkier, so I think I used like 2 different waistbands and maybe like a hemline from a dress or from a skirt, and sewed those together at the end, and then I just braided them together. So instead of twisting them, I wanted this to be a little bit bulkier since it's what's actually sitting around the pot, and I braided them together, and I just stuck them underneath my sewing machine and used that as kind of like a weight. I did this as a pretty loose braid because I want it to be like kind of a thick puffy strand because it's holding up my pot. And then I just sewed together the end, cut off the excess, and finally sewed it together at the end to actually make it a circle or ring shape. And I would say it's definitely a good idea to go over it a couple times and go slow because it's very thick fabric, and my machine was kind of having a hard time because it's very thick fabric. My thread just broke. And then once it was done, I tried my loop on my pot, and there you go, perfect. I just got my top ring. I decided after this I need to do a couple rings just to make sure it's actually going to stay in there very securely. Alright, so I ended up doing 3 braided sections for like the body of the plant. They're kind of sagging right now, but I decided, because I was like, man, probably did this in the wrong order because now I'm gonna have to go and like sew each of my hanging strands through every single one of these layers, and they're pretty thick. But instead, what I'm gonna do is, since each of my ropes is 2 different strands of fabric woven together, once I get to either of these, I'm just gonna interweave it within my rope. So, you know, I'll do like a layer and then a couple more twists, and then put this layer in, a couple more twists, and then the bottom layer, and then I'll knot all those pieces together at the end, and then that's what's hanging down. So a little bit different than my original plan, but I think it's gonna be good. Okay, another slight alteration in my plan. I'm only gonna be doing 3 hanging strands from the top. I'm worried they're too thick. I don't want them to like completely cover up my plant. So at the top of each strand, I'm gonna do a little decorative bit. I've got this bag of wooden beads that I had left over from like a Christmas thing that I did. So I'm gonna put a wooden bead at the top of each one where they join at the top, and it's gonna be super cute. So that's what we're doing next. Twisting and adding onto the base. Getting the fabric through these wood beads, not easy. Having a cuticle like thing, I don't know, cuticle cleaner, I don't know, has been very helpful. So if you're trying to do something like this, highly recommend. So the further I've gone on, the more I've realized that I don't have very many heavy items that aren't like sliding while I try to like twist or braid my fabric. So I've kind of found out to just wait. Oh yeah. So I just got my first like rope done and twisted. There's my bead on the end. So at the end here, where I was getting close to the layers, I intertwined each of like my braids in the rope, and then did a couple twists, and then went around it again, did a couple twists, went around it again, and then I just tied it off with like a quick knot. I'm gonna tie all 3 of the ropes together once I get to the end, but that's where I'm at right now. Okay, right now, this is where we're at. So up at the top, I made a loop so that I can put around my curtain rod, and I did it just like of 3 braided pieces, and then I sewed it to the top of my 3 main strands. I got my little beads up here, which I think are cute, and then I've got my 3 main strands. I think they look great. The part that's still kind of a mess is here at the bottom, but it's because I haven't like tied off the ends. So I'm gonna wait till I put the pot in it, and I've got it actually adjusted to like the length and height and everything that I want, and then I will tie all 3 of the ends together so that it's like sealed off, and it'll be perfect. So to do that, I'm actually gonna hang it up so I can see like exactly the height that it'll be, and I can hang the pot in it. I know that these rings are small enough it's not gonna fall through it, so I'll just tighten it up while it's up there, and I'll tie it up, and then it's gonna be done. I'm so excited. This is my avocado tree, by the way. I grew this from an avocado seed. It's like one of my proudest horticultural accomplishments. Isn't she a beauty? She's so tall. She's a giant. I love her. She got her first branch this year. Look at that. Do you see that? See that little branch? Look how cute she is. I love her. Okay, focus. So I'm gonna just like tighten these up so that they're not like hanging far beyond what is actually useful for them. I'm also gonna turn my pot because it has a sticker on it that I could not get off. So we're gonna just make that face outside because I don't care what that looks like. My arms are getting tired. Okay. I think it looks good. Yes. So now all I have to do, now that I've got all 3 of my layers like pretty well adjusted, and she's sitting on there pretty nicely. I'm just gonna say all that over. Okay. Look at that. Okay. So I got all 3 of my layers like adjusted, and I like just did a single tie knot at the bottom of each one so that like it stayed where it needed to be. Now all I have to do is tie off the ones at the bottom so that it comes together in one single knot, and then I'll probably trim them. They're a little lengthy. They're getting in my other plants below. Kid just rode past on the sidewalk wearing no shirt and a cowboy hat. I think I'm done. So you might be thinking, wow, she used up a lot of scraps for this project, but here's what's left of that original pile. Here's what's left from the big pieces that I had left over. I guess I'll just keep them forever because yes, I do have a bag full of little scraps that I'll shove all the tiny pieces in because I can't get rid of anything ever, and yes, they are color sorted. And for those larger pieces, well, those go in my larger scrap pile, which is just a larger bag on the other side of my craft room that I guess I'll just stick here for now until I figure out something to do with it. And the smaller pieces, the ones that are too small to do anything with, I put in this scrap box, and I use when I make something that needs stuffing, like a stuffed animal or a pillow. I have a problem. I can't get rid of anything. It feels wasteful. I don't want to throw it away. What do I do? I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I had fun making it, even though at one point I thought my bag of wooden beads was a bag of candy, which was kind of disappointing. I mean, you could see how it looked like candy. I had just eaten another piece of candy, like in another room, so like, it makes sense, right? But I will try to do more videos using up my scraps, because now you know I have like an insane hoard of scraps and I literally always need to use them. So I'll try to do more fun videos that bust your scrap stash, because if you're a crafter, you just got scraps. You keep stuff. It's just how it is. So I'll keep trying to come up with ideas. Hopefully this gave you some ideas about how you can make your very own crafts, and hopefully I'll see you back here again for the next video. Thanks so much.